Hello, hello. Welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, and that man over there, Seth Price, down in DC, talking all about stuff. He's coming back from another trip. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about this week in the Law Firm Blueprint, Seth. And I want to start it with I'm on your social media and I see you with all these people in the warmth while I'm freezing my buns off up here in New England. I mean, we got some snow, but it's awfully cold. How was Miami with the National Tri
I
Lawyers?
love NTL. I'm the biggest cheerleader. First, you and my wife had the same issue, which is she's sitting there 4 out of 5 days off with snow for the week. I think they went to school Thursday, the kids. NTL to me is like my second business home. Started by Keith Givens, National Trial Lawyers. It's at the Lowe's. It's all but 2 years have been at this amazing hotel, which is sort of self-contained. At night, people may go somewhere, but there's so much on property, the pool scene, the cabanas, and look, it's designed. There's a business of law track, and then there's a substance track. So
Right.
you imagine where I am, and I love it. I help program an entire afternoon, 3.5, 4 hours of digital marketing masterclass. I was on a panel that ended up dovetailing back into digital marketing the next day. And it's just, for me, I walk around and you go somewhere, 3 times you got friends. So you go a dozen years. It's really like some lifelong friends in an ultimate environment. Again, I think what makes it special for me is the way this hotel is set up. There's one big, as you've been to, one big sort of common area by the bar restaurant, and you have access to anybody you want. Mike Papantonio sitting there, Keith Givens, people who are like these amazing business legal minds are there and relatively accessible. You don't break into their meetings, but generally it is a very collaborative communal environment. I just love it.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking at my own timeline, my memories on my Facebook app, and there was a couple pictures of me on the stage back in January of 2020, which was the last thing we did before the world shut down, basically. And I'm thinking, gosh, that was only 4 years ago before the world shut down. It seems like it was a lifetime ago now. I mean, I can't believe that we're only really 2 years post COVID. And I mean, not really because people are still getting it, but
Well,
really
but it
2 years
depends on how
post
you
COVID.
define it, right? I mean, that's the other piece that was sort of fascinating. My world, people still are, going and quarantining and doing what they're supposed to do after they get COVID. The rest of the world's not testing. So it's really, and I don't think did for quite a while. So it's just I remember being in Florida during COVID, during the heart of it, pre-vaccinations, and wearing a mask was making a political statement. It's just so what's neat there is you have people from all over the country coming together. So you get all these different perspectives. And, when I looked at my plaintiffs' numbers, my PI practice numbers, we took some hits because our area was shut down for a while and those cases trickled out. So 23 was not nearly as strong as other years simply based on some down inventory months. When we were doing these podcasts, a lot of stuff came back quickly, like criminal, but stuff like PI really didn't.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't really have it. I think you had one at the time. Did you have a trust in the states practice then? Were
We
people
still
rushing to
do.
get that stuff in, or is it still? I mean, think about it. If you don't have the incentive to get your trust documents and your will and everything into place, if you're at that age and there's a worldwide pandemic going on, it's going to take a lot to get you off your couch to actually get that stuff done. So I think that certainly impacted. Have you seen any bounce
I
back in
like,
that area?
it never bounced back. I think people were using some of that dead time to do stuff. That group has grown modestly over the years. And, I think the trends that I always see is January, a bunch of people usually pass away around the holidays. And I'm just seeing this now with some friends' parents. And so you see a little bit of bug, but I can't tell you that we went through the roof. What I did see go through the roof post pandemic or post lockdown was family law. Oh my God. The bump that practice area got with it. Look, I can tell you from my own personal circle, the number of people getting divorced was not insignificant. And no, we talked a lot on the show. Jettison, for instance, saw during COVID that immigration just wasn't comporting well with the rest of our practice and sort of punted that out and tried to clean some stuff up. But there were certainly areas that were benefited. And when I say that, PI wasn't as bad economically during COVID because you were settling cases. But I think what we just saw right now at the end of 23 was there was sort of some of those bad months of case acquisition comes to roost when that normally would have been a higher number then and settling now.
Yeah, it's interesting because that leads to a bigger conversation I think that anybody can have is, when you are settled into a practice area, should you look to expand that practice area and bring in another one, a different one, or should you wait until you have critical mass in a practice group before you uh, spread your wings into a new practice area? For example, I've had a couple of calls. We've gotten a couple of calls in the recent past for Title IX, university discipline, that type of stuff, which is tangentially related to criminal defense in that there's sometimes criminal allegations that go with it. And I keep saying to my team, look, I don't want to go out and hire a lawyer for a dozen of these cases a year. I don't want to necessarily build a whole practice area around it when we have so much opportunity still for us in the criminal space in Connecticut. Um, and and
Well,
that's
I
a
mean,
question I
there's
pose
so
to you. I
many,
mean, you've done
yeah.
it. You've built a lot of things.
But I've also
Is it
chased a
worth
lot of
it?
stuff that I was like, oh, I'm going to be the master of prison death cases, or I'm going to do Title IX and this and that, and they're all viable. I think that like most things, my philosophy has always been go big or go home. If you were passionate about Title IX and you brought somebody in with some expertise, or you went and got yourself and become an expert, great. There's a guy in my market that I just love. He just broke off from his firm for many years, where he's like the Title IX guy. And like those cases, if you're the guy with the pedigree, he is, you know, Ivy League law school and Ivy League everything with AUSA experience, that guy can get those 40 to $150,000 cases from parents. But getting an extra 10 or $15,000, as a case, you could just replicate more felony cases if that's what you wanted to do. Do you need to niche down? I think that the bigger question you started with is niching down versus not niching down. And it's easier advice to give than take. Niching down makes you more money. Did I follow that? No. But I also, like in hindsight, may have been in something that I've been thinking a lot about. I planted my plaintiff state, DC, Maryland, Virginia, contrib in all three jurisdictions. Not a great, there are people that make a buck, don't get me wrong, but compared to Florida, California, people make bucks in these places that are unbelievable. There aren't that many people crushing it. Is there one firm that gets like premier referrals? Maybe, but it is not a place that you go to make your riches. Like I would have made a lot more money if I had my digital presence in any other state. I would have done a lot better. Partially why I expanded criminal, because if you're doing 15 million in criminal, like that's more than most PI practices,
Right,
right?
right.
So,
And that's part of my thing. Like, I mean, if I can expand my criminal, I'm mid seven figures. I think I can get to eight figures with criminal, in the next couple of years. Now that I've got my pods working and my systems dialed in, and I've really, and we're growing. I mean, 25% a year growth over the last couple of years. And astoundingly, a lot of it's coming by way of referrals. Our referrals are blown through the roof because one of the great things about it is I'm actually paying attention to those referrals and trying to nurture them. And I think a lot of our stuff are coming in from boomers that have started to slow down, and they want to
to be
send
fair, you
stuff
paid a
out.
lot. You paid dues over the years. I mean, who else
Yeah.
shows up in a branded T-shirt at a bar event? I mean, you have. This is not. This is an accident. This is an accidental.
No, well, that's the
You
thing. I
spent
was
a
playing
lot.
a long game. I was playing a long game. And part of my conversation with you is, if I'm getting referrals from now, a general practice firm that now has decided we're only going to do PI and family, we're not going to bother getting up in the morning and running to criminal court. Let's just send them all to Ruane. If I open up a PI practice, will those things dry up? Probably, because now they see me as a competitor. I don't see myself
No,
as
no,
a
no, no.
competitor
Like
because,
theoretically, I understand what you're saying. At the same time, I think it's overstated. I mean, like the PI is a whole different issue for you in general,
yeah, I
but
don't want it.
but you're replicating something. But the thing I think to be careful about, look, I've been very, very fortunate of late, you locally, me at these conferences, my phone is constantly getting pinged with referrals. But as we both know, this is not like one to one, like every referral is monetizable. You
Right.
know, it's a number of people. Oh, thank you. I'll give your name to somebody. They ever like you try to tighten it by a whole nother conversation about. To me, if somebody wants to refer to me, I want an email intro to that person I can give to my intake. The idea that you're giving my name to somebody, don't even bother reaching
Oh,
out
well,
to me. Give me
that's
your
why we
phone
got rid
number.
of business cards. I got rid of business cards for my lawyers. They don't get issued business cards. They have a digital card that they can put our contact information
Well,
into the client's phone,
well,
but
I'm going
we
to give
don't.
you. I'm going to give you something here. This is maybe the best advice I give you all day. To me, those are dangerous unless you do one thing. To go and give a digital business card is almost worthless, in my opinion, right? To me, unless the person or you get theirs, either way, but unless the person hits send and an email goes back and forth, not just downloaded to their phone, because once it's downloaded to their phone, like not even worth the time it is to get it downloaded. Better than nothing. We think a lot of ourselves. Are they going to remember the associate they met in
No.
court?
So here's what we do. When they download the business card, it doesn't say our name. It says lawyer attorney, first name lawyer, second name attorney with the phone number. And if they say they want to get in touch with us, in order to put the number, we train on this when we onboard our new lawyers and our staff. In order for you to whip out the business card and you put it into their phone, you have to say, now give me your number. I'm going to have somebody reach out to you.
Right.
And
Well,
just
well,
taking
well,
away the business cards and having our people say, no, 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 if you want to hire us, give, the people in the courthouse, in the lobby, that type of thing, or somebody out at a bar. Oh, I got, I want an expungement. Give me your information. My people will call you.
well,
We
no,
got
no, 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 no,
proactive.
that's for a case. But what about when you're networking? You meet somebody, hey, do you have a card? Right? And you give the digital business card and a regular paper one, right? I do the plastic ones. I literally was in an Uber the other day. Somebody had it from 4 years earlier, sitting in there, but not that I made any money from it. But what I'm saying is when you give a digital business card, yes, if it's a live case, we're going to call you right away. I get that, right? Who cares if you give them a business card then? You're just calling them, right? That the business card's irrelevant. But if you're putting your phone number into somebody's phone, unless so great, it's in their phone. I love the fact you use a lawyer. That's wonderful. But unless the person sends a message and gets so if somebody gives me, for example, they don't have a card. I'm at a conference and they say, here's my digital business card. Great. It's in my phone. Worthless. Right? I'm not going to remember the 1,500 people I met last weekend. But if I hit send with a nice to meet you and CC my team, they can put them into the drip campaign. They can do all those things, hit them on LinkedIn. This is my protocol. Theoretically, send them a handwritten note when they do it, which was great. And when you lose somebody, they got to retrain them. All of that said, if you can do that, how much better is that than it's just sitting in a phone? Because sitting in the phone, I'm just cynical that that's doing anything, and then I think that the digital business
It,
card
it
actually does a little bit of harm.
it may not be doing anything. I mean, the reality is I know I've never deleted a contact from my phone. And I'm just thinking of the whole, hey, they scroll through the things, they say, oh, I've got this lawyer attorney. God forbid they need somebody, they remember, oh, I've got a lawyer in my phone. I can give you that number. Hey, maybe I strike gold. I mean, I'm not looking, this isn't something where I know that there's oil under the, where I'm going to go tapping for it. It's maybe something comes up.
Right.
But what I really want to talk to you today about is, um, notice. I had another attorney who's leaving us, taking a job with the state, and that's all well and good. I mean, I want people to find their path in life, whether it's with me for 3 years or 30 years, or hell, even in 3 months. If this is not the place for you, I'd rather know sooner rather than later before I invest in a lot in you. But it seems that there is a ton of TikTok content about you don't owe your bosses anything. You can just quit. You don't have to give them any notice. There's this concept of 2 week notice, which I think really comes from like Ford factories in the 1930s, where it's like you need 2 weeks to be able to put somebody into that role and teach them how to stamp the metal machine. So 2 weeks, that's assuming that you have somebody who's ready to be hired. But I can't believe that in our industry, 2 weeks notice for a lawyer is sufficient to turn over your
Right,
files.
right. It isn't. And for the most part, the better employees don't do that. I was just interviewing somebody today, and they like 3.5, 4 weeks is what they need. And I never push back when somebody needs more time for an exit. It's annoying because I've had people ask for 5 or 6 weeks to do a transition, which is not unsubstantial. But I think the flip side is what is the company culture when it comes to how do you treat exits? Because I just had an interesting situation where somebody left the firm and somebody else got very nervous about themselves. And it's tough because you don't want, for HR purposes, to say anything disparaging or otherwise about the person leaving. However, at the same time, I want somebody else to know, hey, you're not in the same league as somebody else and that you have nothing to worry about. So you have that piece. But one of the reasons we've always been, pushed for severance has been, as much as it may suck and the person may have done terrible things and not been a great player, is that I want to make sure that it's a two-way street. That we could be on a soapbox, say, hey, 2 weeks is not enough. But if you walk somebody out the door, which happens, for a bunch of reasons, are you giving that flip side where the people know, almost like an understanding? Because I think what they're getting at is, what those TikToks are getting at is, they're going to walk you out the door and say goodbye. Why do you owe them anything? Now, frankly, hopefully we don't have the people that are subscribing to those channels. It's like somebody said the other day, are you concerned about a negative Glassdoor review? Nobody wants them. And somebody said something the other day, which is like, are the people you really want going down those rabbit holes? you know, and that, and again, it just struck me for the first time. I'm sure some people I want are, don't get me, it's like nobody, but for the most part, the people that really want to work know your firm. They know people there, they know about you. They're not like, making or breaking based on that. If you on the Marriott app, if something is a 3.9 versus a 4.2, are you really making your staying decision based on it? Maybe in the back of your mind, but if that's a great St. Regis, you're going to it. And if something's a crappy Fairfield, you know what you're walking into. You don't
Right.
need you know what you're getting. So I come back to this, which is, I do agree and have had these moments over time that short notice isn't there. But the flip side is, if somebody, and I feel like you're right now in that raw moments, that as much as there's angst, if your system's set up with ruling processes, that the truth is you need a lot less than you think you need when somebody goes, because they're not taking new cases. It's not like the old days when you started, when you wanted to, because you need somebody doing the work. In
Right.
theory, once somebody gives notice, they should be, their job, you're sitting down the next day and everything's off their plate. There are
Right.
times I've had where 3 or 4 days in, we're good. Not always. I'm just saying that, there, and again, what you're dealing with is an unusual one where no cases are being taken, right? But you
Right.
have to reassign. And again, if done properly, it probably takes a lot less time than you think. At the same time, there are times when it's money, or I remember, right, during COVID, where you physically need a body sitting there, and every day they're there is one less day of pain. That's not what you're talking about.
Right. And no, I'm not. I'm just, I'm putting it out there. One of the things that we're going to start doing is when we onboard people, is we're going to have a policy about terminations and that type of thing. And one of the things that we're going to say is that if you're resigning with notice, we would like 4 weeks. Just so that we can be covered, because it does take a while to get, and that's across the board on anything. And I think, I'm not I don't have a problem with paying out 4 weeks of severance to
But I
somebody who
think
was
if
let
you
go.
did the other way around, if you said, we promise that if it doesn't work, we'll do it, that adds a lot of credibility to that 4 week con. Not that you're always going to get it, because new employer says, but
Maybe I should do that,
if you
say
don't do it, I
right,
think
right
it's
up
kind of
front.
disingenuous. If you say, I want 4 weeks, but I'm not giving 4 weeks, and like you're going to have times where to honor that, you're going to pay some guy who was awful and stole time from you and this and that. But I genuinely believe that would nobody could shoot a whole thing. Hey, that's what we're asking for. Do extenuating circumstances come up? With it all possible, know that if for some reason you had to leave, that it was not a right fit for whatever reason. Now that's also tough because you're going to do that during your first week, 2 weeks. So now you take the idea,
No, I think you say is after a year, you're entitled to, you're entitled, if for any reason we let you go, you're entitled to 4 weeks of severance. And,
okay, then I'll come
we
back to
expect
it
four
then.
weeks of,
But okay, so what happens after 2 weeks if you let somebody go?
well, I mean, they're still on probation. I mean, but the way we
Understood, but
start up
I'm
is
saying,
90 days of
so
probation.
in one sense, does it even make sense to say it then? Or is it something when you do the annual review saying, hey, you're no longer a short timer. You're part of our team. We're committing to you. If you ever leave, there's going to be this much severance minimum. If we have to ask you to leave, if you to leave on your own volition, we ask you at this point. Because the truth is, if you
I like
do,
that.
the people in the 2 weeks that are cycling from firm to firm, they're watching the TikToks. They don't give a shit. They're just laughing at you versus the person
I
who's
like
been
that.
with you. So I don't know. It's the way
I like, I
I
really like
love
that though. That's a great topic for to talk about it, at your first annual review. Hey, you're part of this team now. We're going to ask you, we're going to commit to you that if markets change and we have to let you go, you're guaranteed at least a base of 4 weeks severance or maybe more.
basically, we're using that 1 year point in order to delineate. And look, it could be at any point, but I feel like, and that those, sadly, the TikTok people are pushing what is the world that we don't want to be in. What you want is you're beyond probation. We've told you you're there, and that there's 4 weeks because that's the right thing to do. Now, if somebody's been with you, 15 years, it's a different
Yeah, it's
story.
gonna you're gonna need that longer.
Right. But
Um,
yeah,
but this leads me to my next question. So we're in this hiring blitz. We've hired 5 people since January 1. We've got 2 more that we need to hire. Just we are just hiring left and right, it seems. How much time after you found somebody who's good do you give them to transition? Do you say, okay, we're hiring you, but you don't have to report for a month if you need a month with your existing employer?
I mean, I think that's the depends. You don't love the answer, but look, you want as soon as possible. But I was just interviewing an attorney today who's like, she's been in a place 10 years. For her to, if she had not come back and she asked for 3.5, 4. Let's use 4 as the number. She was trying to. The truth is, this lady, if she doesn't give 4, she's doing a disservice. And just like, when you were back in the dating world, if somebody breaks up with somebody to go out with you, it's a pretty good chance they may do the same thing on the other side. So how she's treating this person is going to reflect on how they do it. If you pressure that person and they agree, I need you in a week. I don't know what you do some nights and weekends. That's not like you're sort of forcing somebody into a bad position. At the same time, waiting 4 weeks I know kills you when you really need somebody and you finally make that decision.
Yeah. So let me ask you, you guys are hiring as well. I'm seeing an increase in qualified people filing for some of our open jobs. A
Absolutely.
year ago we were having this conversation saying we can't find anybody. Nobody, like we were I don't want to say scraping the bottom of the barrel, but we had trouble filling it. And now, you post a job for an attorney or a higher support staff, paralegal, that type of thing. It's not unusual for us to get 50
Well,
decent resumes in
I think the
that we
corporate
have to cull
America.
through to find the
No, no, no,
best.
no. I think you're exactly right. I think we touched on it when we needed to hire a recruiter. We saw the Amazon layoffs coming, and then we saw other layoffs. I think corporate America has changed the game. Similar, I'll make an analogy. When Big Law stopped hiring people right out of law school and the numbers they were doing before, summer classes shrunk. That when we saw that, we had a moment when we could hire well. Then people stopped going to law school in the same numbers and it contracted again because it was the trail was up. What I think we're seeing now is before, where are you losing people to, or what's the competition? Not even losing, they may never apply to you. Capital One's a big employer in our market, right? They pay well, they have a great campus in Richmond, they have a campus in Virginia, and they pay a number that is with benefits and perks pretty aggressive in our market. Same with Amazon. Amazon pays numbers that nobody pays. You got a job at Amazon, they did like, I forget what it was, but like a 50% of base bonus at the end of the year. It's
Wow, who
crazy,
could do that?
right?
It's
So if you're
not.
making 100,000, you make a buck 50. It's very hard to compete with that if our number was a buck 20, you know.
Right.
And so when those jobs are not flying off the shelves, it gives you a fighting chance
Right.
at the level we're at. We're not as efficient as Bezos, and so if we're not paying those numbers, that with the contraction, it gives you a better shot at given not that many people out there hiring right now. I just an old buddy of mine, his wife was laid off by her last place. She's like a paralegal at a prestigious place making 80. And there aren't that many $80,000 paralegal jobs, especially if you're jumping to a new substantive area. right? You know, if somebody
Right.
came and they were 20 years of criminal, maybe you pay 75, 80, and maybe you wouldn't. But if you have no experience other than being a great person with great experience, but you have to be trained into a sector, those jobs are hard to do. And I'm seeing more and more of that, that the look, you know, as we've always, again, we've talked about this over the years, that I never want to be the person. If somebody's making 80, I don't want to be the person saying market's paying 60. It's not going to end well,
Right.
right? And so if they're unemployed for 6 months to a year and they then have had recalibrated, fine, but you never want to be the bearer of that bad news.
All right. So last topic of the day, I want to throw this by you. It's still January. And one of the things that we are looking at now is we really want to make an effort on the referral marketing side to touch our or reach out, have some sort of contact, like not just an email, but like a check-in with our high number referral partners over the course of the year. And we have a target of, you know, a new touch every 12 weeks. So that way we get four in. Ideally, you get four touches in over a course of a year. You know, we'll settle for three because sometimes life just gets in the way. And they're busy as well. You know, they've got their practices or their businesses, whatever they are. Are you guys doing anything special in terms of referral partners? Or are you just all in on the digital marketing end and
Well,
not
I think it's both. I have not systematized as well as you or John Fisher. I have referrals coming fast and furious from going to conference. So to me, part of my world is going to conferences, meeting people. They know us for
right?
DC,
They know
Virginia.
they know you're the DC, Maryland, Virginia person.
Where I have punted is an area that you've been particularly good at, which is the local lawyers. We have big law here, and if there's an area that I wish that I've had more of a system for, it would be touches. One of the guys in my space who has a similarly sized firm to ours and started around the same time as ours, built his whole career. He does three, four, five lunches a week, and he's the dessert guy. He's the one who brought you have a meal, you order dessert, not because you want. He's now a huge biker, but cyclist. But he, that extra 15 minutes, it's amazing at business lunches and dinners what happens. I was just at a big dinner a few months ago, and I remember dinner was fine. It was quick. Food came quicker than it should have. Sat for dessert. That's where the magic happened. So this guy basically made an art of that. Now, that's a real commitment.
Yeah.
There are a lot of ways to do it, but I feel like, you know, part of what I think you and I have both done is genuine relationships with people is going to trump anything else. I've tried to use Facebook as one of those areas where of the people that are on, which is not everybody, that is a way to really stay in touch. I think, and for me, I'm middle-aged, so I use that.
Right.
There are other people that live on LinkedIn and love it, but it's a ping. But what I love about Facebook particularly is it's other people's families, and that makes to me for a richer thing than rather than say congrats on the promotion or this or
Right.
that. It's when you have something and knowing how to go a step further. Facebook Messenger, you know, with something to that person. Every emails are lost. Texts are getting busy. The one place where anything you get is pretty much personal is that. And so I think that is one of those great untapped areas that if you use that as a way to stay in touch, you can really do some damage.
I mean, I think the reality is that you got to stay in touch with these people, and just subscribing them to your mailing list isn't necessarily enough. I think you need to have that sort of personal connection because it's the personal connection that got them to connect with you. And so I've been toying with this idea of actually creating. I have my firm mailing list, but actually creating a personal mailing list so that I can update people as to what's going on in
And
my
to
life.
me, I think it's already Facebook for the most part.
It
I mean,
probably
no,
is.
and the fact is that like one of the benefits that you and I have, I don't post a crazy amount, but those posts, it's amazing. Even though you may not get the engagement, the number of people who stalk passively.
Oh, well, I gotta tell you, I think you saw it a couple of weeks ago, to
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. I took my son to the New York Symphony Orchestra. He's playing the viola and he's loving it. And so I
Why
said,
is
you
my
know what,
daughter
let's
playing
just,
viola?
yeah. So me and my wife decided to take him into the city so he could see it. First of all, it was an amazing experience. I mean, I must say that it was like we brought the average age of the audience down by at least double digits, because it's really just a bunch of old white people in there, which is unfortunate, right? You know,
Right.
because the music was astounding, and I wish they had a better, a wider variety of the audience. But as it was, I posted a picture. I got 120
Yeah,
likes
but that's
and
but
50
that's not the
comments on
point.
that one
No,
picture.
look, things hit pay dirt, things don't hit pay dirt. Kids do better than others. Dogs do great. That said, it's not that 120, which is awesome. What I'm telling you is there's another two or 300 that are seeing it and not engaging. It's when I go to these conferences, people who I haven't talked to, I'm trying to think of examples, but when there was something big that happened to me, was it professionally? I don't know, it was the Wall Street Journal article or something else. It was something happened and I was at a social event. Maybe it was the Inc. 5000, something like that came up. And I'm at a social event, and it was amazing how many people were talking to me about it who had not engaged or not anything else. So the power of social, especially in our world, 120 is great, and that you should poo-poo it. But I think it's much more powerful than that. And there are a bunch of people that aren't doing, but they're saying it's getting you into their noggin, and
Yeah.
that's what's so. Because you've branded as the DUI attorney, now make sure that they, as our memories slip, I don't always remember everybody's names. You don't remember everybody's name, but if it's
I don't.
there and I see you, that triggers that, and it's in. And as one of my old mentors said, who do like more like B2B networking for like white collar federal cases, because they always want to be co-counsels on cases that are bigger. That whoever you've spoken to in the last 2 weeks is who you do business with. I think the great thing about social is it can basically make you present even when you're not running around and doing stuff.
I like it. Well,
Cool.
there's a lot of stuff that we talked about today. We ran a whole gamut of stuff from beginning to end. So thank you for being with us, folks. As always, if you want to take us on the go, you can catch us wherever you get your podcasts by searching up the Law Firm Blueprint podcast, sponsored, I guess, by Blue Shark Digital. It's you got the blue, you might as well use it, right? You know, go for the branding there. And of course, you can catch us live in the Facebook group, the Law Firm Blueprint Facebook group, every week as we put these shows up there as well. We've got a bunch of stuff in store. I'm going to be traveling to a conference. I don't really get out much, but I'm going out to Vegas in a couple of weeks for an NACDL conference. And so we'll see how that goes. I'm going to check out that show Absinthe that I went to you with
I love
for
it.
your birthday. That was years ago now.
Oh,
So I'm going to take
by the
some of
way,
that.
they now have a version of it in AC.
Oh, no
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Maybe I'll make my way down to the AC sometime this summer
Maybe we
to
could
get.
have a live law firm blueprint from Atlantic City. We'll
Oh,
get
that'd be
that.
cool. That'd be a lot of fun. We can
Yeah.
meet up with our old friend Bill Colarulo, who's doing all this stuff.
Oh,
Now
that's
now the Eagles are out, so he's got some time on his hands. So
I
we
was going
could
to say
definitely.
history is written by the victor. Had they stayed the course of the beginning of the season, this guy'd be a national name.
Oh,
Instead,
absolutely, absolutely.
instead,
But but as a Giants fan, you can't help but glee at the wide right again this weekend for the
oh,
Bills.
I feel bad for it. I didn't take the lead. I was like, oh, my daughter, 10-year-old is a huge Chiefs fan at this point. Doesn't know anything about football, but Taylor's boyfriend plays for them, and every time she came on the screen, she screamed and she watched the game with me.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. As always, take us on the go. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating on the podcast player of your choice. Catch us in the Law Firm Facebook group. If you're not a member, please join us in the group. And we'll be talking to you soon. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.